The Life and Sad Ending of June Allyson. June Allyson, born Eleanor Geisman, was born on October 7, 1917, in the Bronx, New York City. She was the daughter of Clara and Robert Geisman. She had a brother, Henry, who was 2 years older. She had been raised as a Catholic. In April 1918, Allyson was 6 months old. Her alcoholic father, who had worked as a janitor, abandoned the family. Allyson was brought up in near poverty, living with her maternal grandparents. To make ends meet, her mother worked as a telephone operator and a restaurant cashier. When she had enough funds, she occasionally reunited with her daughter, but more often Allyson was farmed to her grandparents or other relatives. In 1925, when Allyson was 8, a tree branch fell on her while she was riding her tricycle with her pet terrier in tow. Allyson sustained a fractured skull and a broken back, and her dog was killed. Her doctors said she would never walk again and confined her to a heavy steel brace from neck to hips for 4 years, and she ultimately regained her health. After gradually progressing from wheelchair to crutches to braces, Allyson's true escape from her impoverished life was to go to cinema, where she was enraptured by Ginger Rogers and Fred Astaire movies. As a teen, Allyson memorized the trademark dance routines of Ginger Rogers. She claimed later to have watched The Gay Divorce 17 times. She also tried to emulate the singing styles of movie stars, but she never mastered reading music. When her mother remarried and the family was reunited with a more stable financial standing, Allyson was enrolled in the Ned Wayburn Dancing Academy and began to enter dance competitions with the stage name of Elaine Peters. With the death of her stepfather and a bleak future ahead, she left high school after completing 2.5 years to seek jobs as a dancer. Her first $60 a week job was as a tap dancer at the Lido Club in Montreal. Returning to New York, she found work as an actress in movie short subjects filmed by Educational Pictures at its Astoria, Queens, New York studio. Fiercely ambitious, Allyson tried her hand at modeling, but to her consternation became a sad-looking before part in a before and after bathing suit magazine ad. Her first career break came when Educational cast her as an ingenuine opposite singer Lee Sullivan, comic dancers Herman Timberg Jr. and Pat Rooney Jr., and future comedy star Danny Kaye in a series of shorts. These included Swing for Sale, 1937, Pixelated, 1937, Ups and Downs, 1937, Diamond Dance, 1938, Dates and Nuts, 1938, and Sing for Sweetie, 1938. When Educational ceased operations, Allyson moved to Vitaphone in Brooklyn and starred or co-starred with dancer Holly Roy in musical shorts. These included The Prisoner of Swing, 1938, The Night is Young, 1938, Rollin' in Rhythm, 1939, and All Girl Review, 1940. Interspersing jobs in the chorus line at the Copacabana Club with acting roles at Vitaphone, the diminutive 5'1", weighing less than 100 pounds, red-headed Allyson landed a chorus job in the Broadway show Sing Out the News in 1938. Allyson subsequently appeared in the chorus in the Jerome Kern Oscar Hammerstein II musical Very Warm for May in 1939. When Vitaphone discontinued New York production in 1940, Allyson returned to the New York stage to take on more chorus roles in Roger and Hart's Higher and Higher in 1940 and Cole Porter's Panama Hattie, 1940. Her dancing and musical talent led to a stint as an understudy for the lead, Betty Hutton, and when Hutton contracted measles, Allyson appeared in 5 performances of Panama Hattie. Broadway director George Abbott caught one of the nights and offered Allyson one of the lead roles in the production of Best Foot Forward in 1941. After her appearance in the Broadway musical, Allyson was selected for the 1943 film version of Best Foot Forward. When she arrived in Hollywood, the production had not yet started, so MGM placed her on the payroll of Girl Crazy in 1943. Despite playing a bit part, Allyson received good reviews as a sidekick to Best Foot Forward star Lucille Ball, but was still relegated to the drop list. MGM's musical supervisor, Arthur Freed, saw her test sent up by the agent and insisted that Allyson be put on contract immediately. Allyson's breakthrough was in Two Girls and a Sailor in 1944, where the studio image of the girl next door was fostered by her being cast a long-time acting chum Van Johnson, the quintessential boy next door. As the sweetheart team, Johnson and Allyson were to appear together in 4 later films. Allyson supported Lucille Ball again in Meet the People in 1944, a flop. It was in this film she met Dick Powell, who would become her husband. She supported Margaret O'Brien in The Music for Millions in 1944 and was billed after Robert Walker and Henry Lamar in romantic comedy Her Highness and the Bellboy in 1945. Allyson was top billed along with Walker in The Sailor Takes a Wife in 1945. She did Two Sisters from Boston in 1946 with Katherine Grayson and Peter LaFord, and was one of several MGM stars in Till the Clouds Roll By in 1946. Allyson did her first drama, The Secret Heart, in 1946 with Claudette Colbert and Walter Pidgeon. She did a comedy with Johnson, The Bride Goes Wild, in 1948, then played Constance in a hugely popular The Three Musketeers in 1948. Her Thou Swell was a high point of the Rodgers and Hart biopic, Words and Music, as performed in a Connecticut Yankee segment with the Blackburn Twins. Then, Allyson played the tomboy Joe March in Little Women in 1949, a huge hit. She was adept at crying on cue, and many of her films incorporated a crying scene. In 1950, Allyson had been signed to appear opposite of childhood friend Fred Astaire in Royal Wedding, but had to leave the production because of pregnancy. Allyson played a doctor in The Girl in White in 1952, which lost money, and a nurse in Battle Circus in 1953, a hit. She did Remains to be Seen in 1953 with Johnson, which was a flop. In May 1953, she and MGM agreed to part ways by mutual consent. Allyson had a huge hit at Universal with The Glenn Miller Story in 1954. At MGM, she was in another big success, Executive Suite, in 1954. She went to Fox for Women's World in 1954, which did less well. Allyson has teamed with Stewart again in Strategic Air Command in 1955, a Paramount, another success. She signed with Universal and did 2 more remakes, Interlude in 1957, a drama for Douglas Sirk, and My Man Godfrey in 1957, a comedy with David Niven. She then made A Stranger in My Arms in 1958 with Jeff Chandler. The box office failure of these films effectively ended her reign as a movie star. The DuPont Show with June Allyson, 1959 and 60, ran for 2 seasons on CBS and was an attempt to use a high-budget formula. She later called it the hardest thing I ever did. Her efforts were dismissed by the entertainment reviewer in the LA Examiner as reaching down to the level of mag fiction. Later appearances included Curse of a Black Widow in 1977, 3 on a Date in 1978, Vegas in 78, Blackout in 78, House Calls, The Kid with the Broken Halo in 1982, and Simon and Simon. In personal life, in 1976, Allyson married David Ashrow, a dentist turned actor. The couple occasionally performed together in regional theater, and in the late 70s and early 80s toured the United States with the stage play My Daughter, Your Son. Following a hip replacement surgery in 2003, Allyson's health began to deteriorate. Sadly, she died on July 8, 2006, at the age of 88 in her home of Ojai, California. Her death was as a result of pulmonary respiratory failure and acute bronchitis. She was cremated. Ashes were given to her family.